Okay, so now I'm going to answer a question that a lot of people have asked. Of course, that question is, as I mentioned in the segment before, where I believe we discussed abortion. I don't actually remember, because I had to cut between takes. We were discussing whether the Republican Party actually believes in anything. It seems almost crazy to have to ask that question about a major political party in a major Western democracy. But frankly, at this point, it has come to the fact where we need to ask that question. Because for the Republicans, it seems like they don't really care about anything but Donald Trump. They have completely abandoned policy. They don't actually really care about how the country works. They've made that very clear. But regardless, we still have to work with them, which is a necessary part of our democracy. We have to work with the party in opposition. So, of course, you have the party basically twisting itself into this nihilist party, a party that just simply does not believe it has to govern, which is important. Because if it doesn't believe it has to govern, then it won't govern. Because the biggest mistake a party can make is governing, right? Governing exposes you to criticism. Governing exposes you to have to defend your own policy. But if you don't govern, then you don't need to. And this is something that has been noted by three authors. I'm going to really only cite two here. Max Boot and Edward Luce. Max Boot from Washington Post, Edward Luce from Financial Times. And of course, Jennifer Rubin also wrote a very informative opinion on this, maybe in June of 2021. So we'll look at all of those pieces, but primarily the first two. Okay, so the first one makes the claim that Republicans, actually, let's do Edward Luce first, because Edward Luce came first in this. So basically, the point that Edward Luce makes is that the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. That Donald Trump just owns the Republican Party, which is something that I think is pretty clearly true, especially when you consider what happened with January 6th, how it was supposedly this very terrible issue, especially for the Republicans. If you remember, basically, not every Republican, but a lot of Republicans were claiming that this was mainly Trump's fault. I think Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell both said this. Mitch McConnell even did this in February. But now they don't really care about January 6th. Even though it's August, it happened 6 months ago. They just simply could care less. And a lot of this has to do with Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump doesn't care about it, so the Republican leaders don't have to care about it. And of course, it's always worse to confront the problems that are inherent in your own party, rather than looking at the other party and just talking about, I don't know, cancel culture or wokeness gone awry because some potato toy lost genitals or something. I don't actually remember what happened. But this extremely crazy Republican Party doesn't care about policy. It doesn't care about insurrections. It only cares about assuring that it has power. And what it seems like the American people will reward the Republican Party. Well, maybe not the American people and maybe not reward, but they will probably take the House. Almost definitely take the House. They will probably maybe take the Senate. And in 2024, it's likely that this cancel culture wokeness, at least the argument against it, that it can propel the Republicans with no policy whatsoever. And the policies that they do have is completely and utterly unpopular. Tax cuts for the rich, more tax cuts for the rich. It seems like that could propel them to a victory in 2024 with someone like Donald Trump at the helm. Even though Donald Trump, of course, an extreme incompetent, someone who completely doesn't understand the business of government and has no reason to be even close to it. Someone like that should never have been president, of course, but he became president, and now that's what the Republican Party is behind. And if you're not behind him, well, you need to say goodbye to your own career. That seems like what's happening to Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, two Republican representatives who Kevin McCarthy called Nancy Pelosi Republicans because they wanted to investigate the insurrection that occurred on January 6th. So, on the other hand, even with people literally calling for his execution, Mike Pence supported the president and never even questioned the president. I believe he said something about they have two different opinions on the insurrection. They'll never be able to reconcile them. Yeah, well, if the other person's opinion is, I think it could have been a good thing, which frankly Trump, at least according to the reports at the time, thought that it was a good thing. The only reason why it was bad is because it made him look bad. It made his supporters look, what was the word he used? It made his supporters look low class. And really, if that's the point that Trump makes, and Pence is saying, well, it's an irreconcilable difference, that's a difference that must be addressed. That's a difference of character, sure, but we all knew that Trump didn't have a great character, and frankly, that's not my real issue with Trump. I think that Trump should have had a better character, but that's not necessarily my main qualm with supporting Trump. It just isn't. The real issue is that it represents a threat to democracy, and it really does, because January 6th was probably the closest that we have gotten, at least since 1865, to an actual, I don't really want to say coup, but an actual coup. It was the closest that the American democracy has come to collapsing. And that seems almost obnoxious to say. But we do need to remember that January 6th was a problem, regardless of your political leanings, unless, of course, those political leanings are authoritarian and anti-democracy. But as long as you believe in the very creed of the United States, you have to believe that January 6th was a major issue. And it seems like the Republican Party, which has claimed to do that, simply does not. And the people who do in the Republican Party are going to get removed, like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. So the last one that I wanted to discuss was Max Boot, who claims basically the same thing. He says, he then extends the argument from January 6th into COVID-19 and the fact that there really was no reason for the Republican Party to oppose Dr. Anthony Fauci, except for the fact that Donald Trump completely mishandled the pandemic. Now, I've actually mentioned this before on the show, something about Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci. I don't know if I recorded that and put it up. I actually don't think I did, but I did definitely mention that. And it seems like that is something that is extremely major in the Republican Party. The fact that now they are really just distrusting the medical establishment. And I use the term medical establishment. I don't really want to use that term because establishment is politically loaded. But they really just completely have cast aside the medical establishment. And that's a major issue. So you have people like Governor DeSantis saying you can't mandate masks in your school district. That's a bit shocking because really, does it make sense that the governor would do that if it was a Republican governor who supported small government? And then on the other side, he bans vaccine passports and begins selling anti-Fauci merchandise. So the real problem is not that the Republicans support small government or the Republicans support authority even. The Republicans don't support anything. And that is the real danger. So Max Boot mentions that it's like the Joker, right? And I remember that for the Grifter of the Week segment, we used to play this Trump Joker. Well, by the way, I am retiring the Grifter of the Week segment, not because I disagree with the point. It's because I disagree with the framing of Grifter of the Week, because that kind of makes it seem like the people who are saying it don't really believe what they're saying. But that was never really the intention, but people would take it like that. You can see the comments for the Grifter of the Week segment, and you'll understand that people think that I'm saying that Tucker isn't being genuine, which he isn't, obviously. But I've done this before with different people like Ted Cruz, who I think believes what he's saying, except he's just an idiot. So that's different. But I'm not saying that he's an idiot, by the way. I actually believe that he understands that what he says is bad. Let me be very clear about that. Or not that what he says is bad, but that what he says is stupid, which is different. Because you can say bad things in a smart way, but he says bad things in a stupid way. Anyway, let's put that aside and say that in the Grifter of the Week segment, we played a quick Joker deep fake with Donald Trump where he says, the world is a mess. The world is as angry as it gets. Like that. And frankly, that is what the Republican Party is now. It is the party of the Joker. The Joker would vote Republican. The Joker would be elected in a Republican primary if he ran. And that really should scare all of us. So if you'd like to know more about the Republican Party and the way it's heading, I'm planning on doing another thing about the Republican Party, but not specifically about Republicanism, but rather about populism in general and vaccine hesitancy, because those things are tied hand in hand. You definitely subscribe to In Progress on YouTube. Go to linktr.ee/raymondperez if you want to see more In Progress clips. We have Israel-Palestine discussion. We have a lot of different podcasts. You can get it anywhere, by the way. But to find out where you can get it, go to linktr.com/raymondperez. And after this, we'll discuss world politics, which I hope you're very happy for, and the German Greens. That should be fun. So stick around, or if you're not listening to the podcast, then I'll see you next time.